Hi. How are you? Good. Good morning. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. Here's my agenda. This is the Regional Growth Committee of the Wasatch Front Regional Council. Today is January 19th, 2023. My name is Dawn Ramsey. It's my privilege to welcome all of you here with us today. Thank you for being here. And those of you joining us online, we welcome each of you as well. I'm going to start by asking Andrea Pearson if she would give us a roll call, please. If you'll do online first, and we'll do in public. That might let a few more people have time to walk in if they do.
Okay, online with us today, we have Andrea Pearson, Ted Knowlton, Colby Alverson, Ryan Beck, Sharon Bolos, Ben Wethrich, Rosie Hernandez, Nick Tarbett, Brett Milburn, Melinda Greenwood, Dina Blaze, Orion Goff, Mike Sobchak, Alyssa Ducara, and so far that's it.
Mayor, could I?
Yes.
May I just want to give special welcome to Weber County Commissioner Sharon Bolos, formerly Mayor Bolos, and now new Commissioner Bolos is a new member of the Regional Growth Committee, and we're all excited to have her with us today. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much, Andrew. It's good to be with you all.
Thank you. Nice to see you and congratulations. Okay, if we can do a roll call here in the room, is it okay if we just start here? We'll go all the way around and then thank you.
Rosie Hernandez with WFRC.
Jordan Chandler with WFRC.
Mike Sobchak, WFRC.
Jennifer Elskin, Federal Highways.
Tualatin County, Kendall Thomas, Tualatin County. Lauren Palmer, Harriman City.
Natalie Hall, Bluffdale, but representing the league.
Andrea Pearson, WFRC.
Andrew Gruber, WFRC.
Dawn Ramsey with South Jordan City and have been appointed by the league until yesterday. So kind of no man's land.
We're
today.
transitioning.
A little bit. Today there's a transition, but the league as of yesterday. We'll see if there's a new appointment a couple hours from now or not. So, thanks.
Good morning. Ted Knowlton, Deputy Director with WFRC.
Hello, Monica Zoltansky, Sandy City.
Jenny Wilson, Salt Lake County.
Carlton Christensen with the Utah Transit Authority.
Terry Newell, UDOT.
Bob Dandoy, Mayor Roy City.
Ariana Farber, Military Installation Development Authority.
Megan Townsend, found a microphone, WFRC staff.
Jory Johnner, Long Range Planning Group, WFRC.
Christy Dahlberg, Community and Economic Development Group, WFRC.
Hugh Van Wagenen, Bike Ped, WFRC.
Julie Bjornstad, Long Range Planning at WFRC.
Lauren Victor, WFRC staff.
Marsha White, CED.
Michaela Jordan, WFRC staff.
Byron Head, WFRC CED.
Kimberly Bell, Sandy City.
We are a team of acronyms. That's how we roll here, right? All of us. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Welcome. We appreciate it. We have minutes that were sent out from our Regional Growth Committee meeting held October 20th, 2022. Anybody had an opportunity to review those minutes? Are there any changes to make? Otherwise, can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Thomas and a second by Mayor Dandoy. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Thomas, right? Council member. Tell me your title. Council member. Tooele is a council. I do know that. Yeah, Council member Thomas. Thank you. I want to get that right. And a second by Mayor Dandoy. Thank you. Any discussion to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Those minutes are approved. Thank you.
Mayor, just want to note that our friend from Draper, Brett Milburn, identified a microphone issue. So maybe we can just, I don't know if there's anything we can do to just make sure that those online can hear okay. But we're working on that. and
We'll just
aware of
make
it.
sure we speak into the microphones when we're in the room. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, thank you. All right, next we have our public comment period. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak to this committee today? If so, the time is now yours. Let us know, give us a wave. Anyone online? I'm not seeing any. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion of this meeting. Seeing none, I will close the public comment portion of this meeting. I'm being instructed to speak very directly into the microphone. And for those of you in person, apologies. And those of you online, I hope this helps. Sorry. All right, item number 3 on our agenda. We have our Wasatch Choice and our 2023 through 2050, I don't know, I'm getting told, regional transportation plan. 2023 is the adoption year for this plan. You know, we've been working on this for some time. We're in the final year of the 4-year process of updating the regional transportation plan. The RTP charts the course for the next 30 years, as you know, for regional roads, transit, and trails. Today, we're being asked to recommend to the full Wasatch Front Regional Council the release of the draft RTP for public review. The RTP is the transportation element of our shared Wasatch Choice Vision. And Wasatch Choice is our shared framework that coordinates transportation, land use, and economic development. Before we consider any action, Jory Johnner is here to help us understand what the draft plan looks like and what the upcoming steps are for us as the Regional Growth Committee. Jory.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Perfect. Let our staff know if you can't hear me online. Jory Johnner, Long Range Planning Group, Wasatch Front Regional Council. Thank you, Mayor, for that great introduction. At the end of this presentation, hopefully everybody here has a good understanding of what the Regional Transportation Plan is, where we're at in the process, and what our next steps are to kind of finish the plan. Reminder, the Wasatch Choice Vision ties economic development, land use, and transportation together. Today, I'm going to focus on the Regional Transportation Plan underneath the transportation component. And on the right side there, you all and the Regional Council adopted 10 regional goals for the Wasatch Choice Vision. I want to assure you that all these goals have been used throughout the regional transportation planning process from step 1 till the end of the process. So they include livable, healthy communities, quality transportation choices, sustainable environment, etc. So you can see them all there, but they've been a really good guiding light for our planning process. The right RTP is multimodal, includes roadway, transit, active transportation. And when we say active transportation, we mean walking and biking facilities. We've worked on these in coordination with our transportation partners, so UDOT, UTA, and with our local communities, the cities and counties throughout the partnership, along with a variety of stakeholders and general public. You can see on the right side, the variety of transportation modes or within each mode ranges pretty significantly from freeways to collector roads, from commuter rail or front runner to core bus routes, separated trails to shared pathways. So big variety within our transportation planning process. Reminder also with our regional transportation plan, it needs to be completed on a 4-year cycle. And some of these come from our friends at Federal Highways. We have to be financially constrained, which means it's not just a wish list of projects that we want, but we have to also assess the finances, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. We need to meet our air quality budgets that are given to us by the state and EPA, and considers land use and the tie to population and employment. And we rely very specifically on input from our local communities and key landholders across the region on that. It's broken into 3 phases. And those phases you can see are 2023 to 2032. Phase 2 is 2033 to 2042 and 43 to 50. We also have projects that fall in an unfunded category, which means that they're 2050 and beyond, even though they're needed before that time frame. The important piece of this slide you'll see at the very bottom there is that nearly every funding source, either federal, state, local, is tied directly to the regional transportation plan and looks to the plan as the funding sources or programs are looking to implement transportation projects. So that looks to the regional transportation plan there for all modes and nearly all those sources. We started the planning process over 3 years ago. And as a reminder, we started looking at external forces and policies, and those included connected and autonomous vehicles, telecommuting, and this was pre-pandemic, right? So we've all now experienced quite a bit of telecommuting and teleworking on our own. Micromobility, signal priority for transit, road usage charge, and street connectivity are a few of them. We looked at 22 external forces and policies. We then worked with you all to create a list of projects in all 3 modes that best fit the land use, future land use, the Wasatch Choice Vision. We moved to the step, as you can see, just this last year, of identifying when projects are needed. And then the final part of this last 6 months, we've been working on financially constraining the plan, matching up those needed projects by phase to the available projected existing and new revenues that we would expect between now and 2050. And then we're at the final piece of the part of our plan where we're looking for public comment. We're finalizing our documentation of our plan and then adoption this May. This wanted to highlight some of our more recent outreach efforts. We met with 8 workshops, transportation workshops with our local communities this last fall, October and November. We also met with about a dozen key stakeholders throughout the region, including transportation, land use, environment, and community groups. We met with universities and community college, landholding and industry groups, chambers of commerce, local businesses, and resource agencies. So we've done a pretty extensive outreach effort this last fall, which resulted in nearly 250, no, make that over 300 comments just this last fall on the financially constrained plan. Throughout the planning process, I think we've logged over 2,000 comments from the very beginning till now.
Joy, I'd just like to note on your list of comments, the area that got the most comments was active transportation, evidence that the community really cares about trails, and we'll be hearing more about exciting trail opportunities later in this meeting.
And it wasn't unique that there were more comments on active transportation on the financially constrained piece. This had been consistent throughout the planning process that active transportation received the most comments. And should also note, I think on this slide, that this was the first time we've financially constrained active transportation. In the past, we've identified projects that we had wanted between now and 2050, but we're working not just with us, but statewide, looking to identify projects when they're needed and financially constrained active transportation to bring that up, the emphasis up to the level of the other 2 modes. We worked with all of our local communities and key stakeholders to develop population and employment projections. These aren't used only for the regional transportation plan. They are part of our travel demand model, our real estate market model, but the forecasts are used beyond the regional transportation plan for transportation studies, which include environmental studies or alternative analysis. They're used for local planning efforts and by our other partners or districts, including water districts, school districts rely on these population forecasts and job forecasts. They were based on existing market conditions, local land use policies, our vision, and stakeholder feedback. And a lot of work that our analytics group did when we met with some of the key landholding groups, they provided a lot of input. You can see a link there. This is a really user-friendly interactive map that allows you to not only see 2050's projections, but any year between now and then, you could look down to city sizes, districts, county, or transportation analysis zones or TAZs. And it's real helpful. So if you have a chance, get into this and use it and see what's projected. Want to walk us through the financial constrained plan. So you can see here, there is a little bit over $1 billion of expected revenue for active transportation, just over 18 billion for roadways, and a little bit over $6 billion expected for transit in the Wasatch Front region. That doesn't mean that we don't have more needs than we have revenue. And that should not be a surprise to everybody here. As you can see, in all three modes, we have more needs than revenue. One point of clarification on this map is the needs are the specific projects within the regional transportation plan. This does not include local road network that your community would have or need to maintain or preserve. This doesn't include the projects that would be part of UTA's long-range transit plan that they're gonna start working on right now, which would be local bus or express bus or on-demand service. This doesn't include active transportation projects on a lower level than the regional transportation plan that connects parks to the greater transit network. This is a snapshot of what's in the regional transportation plan. As we get to working on the unified plan, we'll work to capture the overall statewide need, which would capture from all the way from the local level to the big regional projects. In the last unified plan statewide, I believe the number was over 108 billion dollars of transportation need for all those projects and to maintain them and operate them. So again, just want to make sure we're clear that this isn't the total need, but it is just the projects within the regional transportation plan.
I'd add one other financial clarification while we're talking big numbers here. What Jory's showing on the screen right now, the light blue are the prioritized needs, not a wish list, although we wish they would all happen, but it's prioritized projects that have been vetted through the process. The dark blue that Jory identifies as revenue, that is revenue that would come from the sources that are in place already today, sales tax, gas tax, et cetera, and the reasonable presumptions that we have made for planning purposes about additional revenues that will come in from additional increases to tax revenue, new revenue sources that might come in. So my point in saying this is even those dark blue bars, if we don't take any other action, if we just relied on the sources in place right now, we won't even have the money that's in those dark blue bars, let alone meeting all of the needs. As the fastest growing state in the nation over the past 10 years, and projected to continue growing as time goes on, this is why we are all continually working together to make sure that we have adequate investments in our transportation infrastructure. This is part of what we do, as Jory noted, through the Utah Unified Transportation Plan, working collaboratively across the state to identify and provide the revenues that we need to address our challenges. Mayor Wilson.
Yeah, so does that mean that by the end of the public comment, we want to refine that down so that those bars meet, or do we just gamble and move?
I don't know that I would refer to it as gambling, but the public comment is more on the projects that are included in the financially constrained plan. As Jory was noting, over the course of the past year or so, we have been getting those comments, the hundreds of comments we were listing before. That was more on the effort of applying financial constraint. Now we put the plan back out, or if you all endorse putting the plan back out at the end of this presentation, we put the plan back out to get public comment about the projects that are in the plan and any other issues. But we would anticipate that these revenues, as Jory is showing right now, are what we would continue into the plan as we go forward.
And so that means over the course of the years, this all gets refined and amended repeatedly.
Yeah.
And some projects just never see the light of day or they're delayed.
Yeah, Jory, do you want to?
Well, I was going to also add that the draft plan matches the dark blue there. So it's based on the revenues that we expect, including some of those new revenue sources as Andrew may mention, local option sales taxes or growth in our existing revenues. So that part does match. We do have an amendment process, and if you wanted to, you could go to our regional transportation plan page, look at old plans, and some projects have been on our plan for quite a while. It takes time for that. A good example would be Mountain View Corridor showed up in plans in the 70s and 80s. It finished an environmental document in the mid 2000s. It's been started to be built. It's going to continue to get built over the next few years. That would be a good example of a project that just takes time. There are other projects that show up, are needed faster than what we had expected, and they'll get money built and they'll get pushed ahead.
It's a dynamic environment. We're continually reevaluating the needs. So thank you.
Carlton?
Jorian, I mostly asked this question just for clarification. When I look at the transit and then I look at the nature of the list in the packet, not all the projects would actually be constructed by UTA. Am I correct? Because as I look, and I don't, like gondolas in there, and there's some others that are in there that likely, would be UDOT led type of a project, right? I mean, but it meets a transit category. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, there are some transit modes. I mean, we work with UTA. I don't know if we assess who's going to operate them in the future, but the state does have a transportation investment fund, and we get a portion of that to plan for within our area. And we use that for some of the bigger projects, including Point of the Mountain or other front runner double tracking or fleet upgrades, things like that.
I've got a question. Noticing that the gondola is included at 390+ million. Why is it included at this stage? We don't have a record of decision as that to lay the foundation for transit hubs or something. And if it is something that is going to benefit regardless of whether the phased approach is rolled out and we come up with something else, or it is the gondola, why is it called the gondola?
So it's consistent with how we handle other projects in environmental stages. We use the best or the latest and greatest recommendation we have from an environmental study. That being said, as mentioned, we have an amendment process. So if something changes, we can change that. We hadn't included the Little Cottonwood Canyon recommendations until about November is when we decided collectively with UDOT that it made sense to include the recommendations. And that was after the first public comment and right at the tail end of the second public comment. There is a risk that something changes by between now and the final, and we'd have to amend our plan to be consistent with the final environmental statement. But what we've done is we've matched up that project with the EIS and with the phasing recommendations from that and the cost, similar to Point of the Mountain Transit. Right now, it's currently in the phase of reviewing mode, right? So it's looking at 3 different modes: bus rapid transit, light rail, XMU modes. We've put in Point of the Mountain Transit as for what was previously recommended, which is bus rapid transit. It's kind of a placeholder until the transit study. We expect fall of 2023. We get an idea of the mode, and it's on our radar to do an amendment. I-15 from Farmington to Salt Lake City, we currently have, because they're just starting reviewing alternatives, we have what was in the 2019 plan recommendation in the plan, knowing that there's a very, very good chance that the EIS recommends something different and will amend our plan to match the environmental study. So it's very consistent and similar planning processes we've done and matched up with a lot of other environmental studies.
So does that mean, Jory, that I'm looking at the transit hub amount of 251? Are the other aspects of the gondola in this plan as well? Or is it just capital gondola cost? I can't see it broken out.
We've added the capital for gondola and the operating for it. So whatever recommendation came out of, or that's in the FEIS, we've matched the project recommend costs to in the plan, including
all
the operating,
all the elements,
all of the elements
that have come through the EIS. So not just the gondola element, but the transit hubs, all the elements that are included,
avalanche
captured in
sheds,
here.
the
Transit
variable
hubs.
pricing component, the Wasatch Boulevard piece of it, the transit hubs, all of those have been included, that they match up. And we've had to make an assumption because the costs right now are in today's dollars. We've had to inflate those to the appropriate phased cost based on our planning inflation amounts consistent with the rest of the
I
plan.
think Helen, Gina are participating. Could we get a breakdown? Could you show us where in the plan those are line item, given they're contained within, I think, other category, like transfer hub would not be exclusive to the ones proposed in Little Cottonwood at 251, right? So if you could help us after to just break down where each of those fall within this plan, that would be helpful.
Okay. Yeah.
I just want to give a brief supplement, because Jory was noting in some detail the relationship between the broad regional transportation plan and then the detailed work that happens through the EIS, the environmental impact statement analysis. The regional transportation plan necessarily operates at a level of generality because it's planning projects across the entirety of the region. And then there is a much more intensive level of review and detail that comes through the federally mandated EIS process. And so the role for an MPO, a metropolitan planning organization, is to do broader planning. And then the EIS process, which is run by the agency UDOT or UTA and doing their EIS processes, get to the higher level, much more specific level of detail. And so the role of the MPO is not to second guess the EIS process, but rather is to incorporate the results of an EIS process into our plan. And then as Jory's noting, if those things change over time, we have the ability to amend if there are different results that emerge from those EIS processes. So just a little clarification. And Jennifer's sitting over there and I'm just looking at her from FHWA, our friend from FHWA.
And I just want to add too that there is that correlation and they're all kind of dependent on each other. But as you mentioned, the ROD hasn't been signed yet. And part of that process, in order to meet federal requirements for not only NEPA and air quality conformity, those projects have to be on a fiscally constrained plan and tip. So before the NEPA process can conclude. So that's part of why it's in the plan. If that makes sense.
Definitely happy to help and provide additional costs and summary. Roadway RTP projects. You can see them here on a map, and I'll provide in a couple slides a map that has a link to our interactive map. There are over 450 roadway projects within the plan. As I may mention, they range pretty significantly on functional classification and on type. Some of them are operational improvements to help improve an existing roadway or optimize the roadway. Others are new construction type projects. And there's almost over 1,000 miles of new roadway projects within the roadway section of the plan. If you put the active transportation projects on top of that, there are almost 775 active transportation projects within this 2023 to 2050 regional transportation plan, over 1,200 miles of projects. For transit, just shy of 100 transit projects, over 400 miles of transit projects within the region. And you can see how all three of these overlay on top of each other and really tie to the existing and future land uses underneath them. The interactive map is what we've been using throughout our planning process to either highlight projects. You can click on it, get information about the project, but we also take comments. So the link in the bottom left of this, this slide, wfrc.org/RTP-2023-draft-map will be where we're taking comments in the public comment period. It's not open right now. If and when we go out to public comment, that feature will be opened up, and we'll take comments here. It's really useful interactive map that we've taken a lot of feedback from our local communities. DOT, UTA have provided feedback on the functions of it. Not planning on walking you through those functions right now, but you can see here, you can select projects by mode. You can turn on and off phases. So if you just want to see phase 1 projects, you can do that. If you want to just look at what projects are new construction projects or which ones are just the core bus routes within the plan, you can select just a mode. You can also just look at local community projects. You can look at UDOT project only or both combined. You can sort projects by when they're phased either by financial constraint or when they're needed. So we thought that was really useful because some of our programs have an option of if it's in phase 1 needed of our plan. We didn't have that tool, or it wasn't easy to do before. You had to click through every project. Now you can sort the projects and highlight which ones are needed in phase 1 or needed in phase 2. And you can sort it by cost. So if you want to look at just projects that are over $50 million, you can put that within this interactive map and it'll filter out the other projects. Carlton?
If there are local projects, will there be at all local bus service?
We do not have the local bus service. That would be mostly on the roadside, or the active transportation. What we do have within here is the option to click the 5-year service plan or the on-demand, the future on-demand service. We'll obviously update that as UTA works on their long-range transit plan. Yes.
Yeah, I got a question here. I see where there's nothing in Tooele County.
Yes.
And this is from today to 2050. Maybe this is a better offline discussion, but there are people moving to Tooele County and I don't see any action, any items out. So if we can talk about it offline, that'd be great.
I will address that right now.
Okay, thank you.
Good catch. The Wasatch Front Regional Council, our metropolitan planning area, or we have 2 urbanized areas. One of them's Ogden-Layton urbanized area, which includes from Brigham City down to North Salt Lake at the bottom part of Davis County. We also have an urbanized area, Salt Lake and West Valley City urbanized area, which is all of Salt Lake County. So that's what we're in charge of for doing long-range transportation planning. UDOT is in charge of all the other areas outside of the metropolitan planning organizations across the state. So there are 3 other MPOs across the state, MAG, Mountain Land Association of Governments, CASH MPO, and Dixie MPO. So UDOT is currently working on the long-range transportation plans for Tooele and for Morgan counties, which are part of our Association of Governments, our AOG. But we work with them, and they've actually hosted a couple meetings here at our offices. And they also work with UTA because there's transit service that runs out to Tooele as well. So those are in the works and are planned to be adopted this summer as well. So I would expect additional coordination from UDOT with the county in the coming months.
And thank you. So it's just a different map.
Yes. And in the end, we'll, as we finish up our plan, the state finishes their plan and the other 3 MPOs finish their plan, we'll consolidate all those maps into one unified transportation interactive map. And so you'll be able to find all the transportation projects for the whole state in that map, which might be useful. We'll also coordinate with UDOT because we know it's not just it is just an imaginary line between Tooele and Salt Lake County for consistency. Similar to what we do with Utah County and Salt Lake County, we work very closely with MAG on that.
And Councilmember Thomas, now Jory has to put a quarter in the cup for not saying that affirmatively and making you worried. And you know, we work with you, and Wayne Bennion and our staff coordinates through the RPO, the Rural Planning Organization, for our communities in Morgan and Tooele. And so we're happy to be able to make sure we're coordinating with you and with UDOT on that planning.
Great questions. I'm gonna want to do a couple of slides just to show you a couple performance measures that this plan has compared to today's conditions. So you can see here the number of jobs accessible to the average household is increasing with our new transportation plan, almost over 20% increase, both by vehicle and by transit between today and 2050. The average minutes driving per household decreases slightly in the future between now and today, partly because we've got a better transit system, better land use, consolidated land use in the future. And next steps.
Jory,
yes.
can I just interject that maybe it goes without saying, but those results are a function of how we lay out our land development patterns and our transportation. It's kind of the story of how everything works together through the Wasatch Choice.
Thanks, Ted.
Did you catch that question, Jory? Is that per person?
Per person in a household, or is that like, hey, I've got 8 kids and we're spending collectively? Well, I mean, how would you?
Whole household. So average household is, I don't even know, 3.5, so right around 3. Okay. Not all are driving in some cases, but on an average.
Thank you.
The 8 car driving households are counteracted by the single household.
Did you factor in Don Ramsey's travel in that calculation?
I spend longer than that in the car every day right now, but that's just me. So it's just, it's okay. It's all coming along. It's good. We're getting there. Yeah.
So we've prepared a draft document, regional transportation plan, the interactive map, and a draft air quality memorandum number 41. Expected to go public comment hopefully January 27th to February 26th. We're looking to review those with RGC and the council in May or March and May, and then work on, as I may mention, the unified plan coordination and outreach efforts this summer. So with that, if we don't have any further questions, there's a draft motion within your packet, and I would hand it back over to the mayor.
Thank you, Jory. Thank you for that. And thank you for the good discussion. The questions are good. The explanation about the process is good, which I appreciate everything that we've heard and the questions that were asked. And I want to I can't put enough emphasis on the collaborative effort that this has been. Thank you to everyone who's participated. The 8 workshops that were held all around the region, and all of the input from cities and counties and UTA and UDOT. And I love that you talked to water districts and school districts and all the players. Thank you for that. A great deal of work has gone into this. And the thing I appreciate about it the most is that it is a living document, that it can be changed, so that it's fluid, and we have a process for making amendments and making changes, because that's going to happen. The way things grow in the fastest growing state, amendments are going to happen. They always do. So that's helpful. I appreciate it. We do have a motion in the packet. There's a draft motion to recommend the release of this draft for public comment. Is there anyone that would like to make that motion? And we will still have discussion time after the motion.
I move that we release the draft of the regional transportation plan.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask to be super official. Would you mind reading that?
Yes, I move that we release the draft of the 2023 through 2050 regional transportation plan for public comment.
Thank you. And the air quality memorandum number 41.
And the air quality memorandum number 41 for public comment from January 27, 2023 to February 26, 2023.
Thank you very much.
On the agenda.
I know. And I'm just, doing what I'm told here. Like I'm going to be in trouble if I don't get all of that in the motion. So I'm like, okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, we're recommending to the regional council, correct?
Yes, we're making the recommendation to the Wasatch Front Regional Council to release the draft for an additional public comments, period. No, it's great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, are there any additional comments to this, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a friendly amendment. If the committee would consider amending the term gondola to change it to Little Cottonwood Canyon Transportation, so that we are not marching toward the gondola. It is, I think it is that one item here that could likely derail approval unless we get some clarification on the budget items. Also, it leaves some latitude for the very dynamic place where we are in the decision. So I think with the breakdown of costs related to any transportation solution and the phased approach is a better informed process for the public comment period ahead. And if we highlight it as the gondola, it is really going to inflame and possibly even derail the progress on the overall transportation. We can have a process or more focused public input once we share information on the costs, that $390 million ticket price. So that would be my proposal to the committee, if we could term that instead of gondola, Little Cottonwood Canyon Transportation, then share that breakdown of costs.
And further, I am aligned with the sentiments of Mayor Zoltansky, and believe that if we were at this stage to maybe average out some of the costs, given I continue to support, and I know the mayor does as well, and maybe others in the room, that we are looking at early investment in some of the phase solution options, and that those come before construction. And ultimately, if a gondola is to be built, we are going to invest earlier in some other options that may push that out further. So I would prefer the idea of taking a step back and looking at average costs in today's dollar, rather than going with prior to record of decision, that specific outlined plan, given we haven't yet heard back from UDOT, having reviewed, UDOT's been reviewing comments, we know, and the vast, well, more than the majority are in opposing a gondola. So along with that concept, might even ask that we consider adjusting, given we've seen those two bars that don't meet up. We know this is a work in progress. We know there'll be amendments, that we are adding a substantial amount of funding to the plan, following the mayor's suggestion of a Little Cottonwood transportation solution. And then as we see things refined, we can come back and amend.
Can I, let me try to respond to that motion and suggestion. I'm trying to think through with our process how we could address the comments that you're offering here. We, as I noted before, the way that MPOs do their work is that they reflect the results coming out of an EIS process. And so we want to be true to the flow of our process. And at the same time, as we've noted, we want to recognize that there is still input happening and the record of decision isn't done. And so what I might suggest is that as we take these comments, and as a staff, what we do as we go forward, we make a point of clarifying or being clear in our release of the plan to the public that the EIS process is not complete, and that there are a range of solutions on Little Cottonwood Canyon. And thereby noting, we recognize that there's still process to be had, but not using the RTP process to sort of subvert the EIS process. So I think that we could kind of take what I'm sort of thinking about this, working together on, on the fly here, that what we would do is acknowledge that there is still a process underway on this project and actually on other projects. And that for right now, we're reflecting the results of the EIS and that is subject to change. And note, as you said, Mayor Zoltansky, that this is an overall approach to Little Cottonwood Canyon that has multiple components. So I guess what I don't have the right to make a suggestion to amend a motion. That's not my job, okay? But I think just in thinking about how we would carry forward on something like this, that we could express it in the way along the lines of what I've said, to make it clear that there's a range of solutions and there's still process underway, if that sounds okay to you and the group. And Terry, and Carlton, you're involved in these processes as well if you wanted to add. But that's what I'm trying to, my thought process on how we would address your points as we go forward and go out to public comment.
I respect that, Andrew, and I'm certainly not personally take any offense to the Wasatch Front work that's being done in this process. However, our county has a position against. This is a big ticket item, and this is a big public debate.
Indeed.
So, and I will be voting no today if we don't amend, and it'll probably be the first time in my longstanding relationship, great relationship with this organization. So don't take it personally.
Of course.
But this one's important enough that I think I will be taking a stand on behalf of Salt Lake County, not just the mayor's office, but our council and our government that opposes a gondola being built in Little Cottonwood Canyon. So it's a little bit of a chicken and egg. I understand your point. That's my position. And I do appreciate the work by all here, including UDOT. This isn't a personal issue for me. It's a issue of taking a stand as a government. We are the regional body, and we say no. So at every juncture, I feel like we need to be in a position to express. I provided an alternative. If that one doesn't work, as did the mayor, that's fair. And it won't be the first vote I've lost.
Terry, do you want to comment?
Yes, I do want to just make a comment. And I think, yes, this is part of the process, is to be able to give that comment and what your concerns are in the idea of the amendment. I think that is a little concerning just in terms of process, because commonly with environmental documents, this is how it's handled when we do have a final released. That's something that we work on with federal highways, and they want to see reflected what the current status of the environmental is in the long range planning process. So that's pretty common throughout everything we do to reflect that current status. And that is factually where the status is. But I think, yes, this process is designed to allow those comments on it. But I think that would be some difficulties we'd have to figure out with federal highways, because it would change how we approach what we put into the long range plan.
And we might not have all the information to have a fully informed decision, but I, like Mayor Wilson, will not be able to support this because I don't see a path forward for representing Sandy if I support this budget. Then I'm going to also be supporting the gondola, and I can't do that. So for that reason, I can't say no, but maybe we should table this and explore this a little bit offline so we can find a way, because I don't want to derail all the good progress, all the work that has been done. I value that, but this is the issue in my city, and I'm not able to move forward with it. And there's so much work yet to be done on the funding discussion. If I approve this budget that anticipates funding the gondola, it undermines all the work that I'm doing in Sandy and trying to find other solutions.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'm looking at the motion. The motion is not to approve any of the budget or the plan. That comes after additional public comment. This motion is simply to recommend that the regional council release the draft for additional public comment, for additional changes to be made before it's adopted eventually in May. That's all we're voting on today.
That specifically, if the suggestion I provided were able to be worked through, I think that those who oppose would be more comfortable and would be more willing to engage as we look at other solutions. I think the word gondola is going to create quite a bit of work on your team if you are to review based on the number of comments that came through at the earlier phase through the UDOT process. Just so I would prefer we work through a understanding that so much is amended in this document. The suggestion that the mayor has put before as a friendly, as opposed to creating yet another opportunity for more attention at this juncture, given the great kind of elements of the plan. And obviously great work, team, and the vast majority of what's in this recommendation to move forward to the public, I'm in support of.
Yeah, I just don't want this to become EIS 2.0.
Right. So I guess I'd respectfully request that we do move forward, not hold on moving forward with an action today to move towards public comment. That would be very disruptive to the entirety of the regional transportation planning process. I know nobody wants that. And you have both mayors made important comments about how we're reflecting this in the plan. I think that, to Terry's point, taking these comments in, we're going to need to think about what our options are, make sure that we're following the federal processes. And we have some time actually between now and a week from today, when the council would vote to release for public comment, to evaluate some options, make sure that they're consistent with the rules that we operate under, and recognizing the points that you're making. So if I might, I would suggest that we move forward with this committee, the Regional Growth Committee, approving the motion in front of us. And respectfully, I would note, you've raised important concerns, and what you conceivably could do is abstain from voting on this, understanding that this is just a recommendation to the Regional Council, and then we'd be able to have more dialogue with you over the course of the days before next week's meeting on how what happens in Little Cottonwood Canyon is reflected in what the council votes on to release to the public a week from today.
So as a former legislator, I'm not comfortable abstaining.
Okay.
Just direct response to that. I have never done that. I'm asked to make a decision. I make a decision unless there's a defined conflict. So it's just the manner in which our council operates. So I'm more comfortable, if you don't mind.
And that was just a possibility.
I get that I'm one vote and one voice, and this matters. And again, I respect the process and I understand the points being made.
Okay.
I ask a question? Maybe you were going to ask the same question. Does that caveat that's being that you recommended in how to discuss and have additional discussion over the next week about exactly how it's phrased in the regional transportation plan proposal that the Wasatch Front Regional Council could put out for public comment, does that additional discussion about that need to be added to the motion, or are we okay with just taking professional courtesy and understanding that conversation is going to happen, or does it need to be changed in the motion? I'm just going to ask for opinions on that.
I'm confident it will occur regardless. So.
I am as well, yes. But I want to make sure that everybody's comfortable that that's the direction, and everybody feels okay, that there's clarity that will continue to happen, that conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
And I just would love some clarification. So if this gets moved to the Wasatch Front Regional Council before the public release, and the same discussion happens at the council, and we all agree that the word gondola should be removed, but yet it's an environmental study, are we back to where we are right now, or is it going to be changed before it goes to the public? That's my question. What is the difference between today and the regional, the meeting next week? Just help us understand the process.
Yeah, what we could do, and we'll have to again think about how this works with the federal processes, is that we could, what we put out to the public could be potentially at a higher level of generality than specifying exactly what the improvements are in Little Cottonwood Canyon. I'm saying that is a possibility, but I'm being careful about that because, again, critically, we have to follow the federal rules, given that there's an official EIS process that has already happened. So our plans reflect the results of an EIS process. And it may be, and as you noted, Mayor Wilson, this hasn't happened before, but if some people feel strongly about this particular project and ultimately need to say, I'm voting no because of this specific element, but then the Regional Growth Committee and the council says we're moving it to public comment, that may be where people have to be. But my point to you, Mayor Hall, is that over the course of the next few days, we'll look at the options about what's possible in terms of how this area, Little Cottonwood Canyon, is reflected and expressed in the draft plan that goes out for public comment. I just don't want to commit to exactly how we're going to do that without having the ability to think through what it means in terms of the federal process.
Now let's explain a little bit more about the timing, because what if we don't feel comfortable and confident that that process will end up where we need it to be if we table it today so that you have time to look at the process, or we need to move it forward?
Yeah, I'm not, and just to be clear, we're not suggesting, and we're actually asking to please not table this today so that we can stay on track with the overall regional process. We're happy to, and so what we would do is a week from today, we'd come to the council and we would explain, Mayor Ramsey, respectfully, as the chair of Regional Growth Committee, we would explain in the Regional Growth Committee, we had a discussion about this topic, and here is how we are handling what has come out of that discussion. And then that would be something that the WFRC as a council could consider when this item is put before the council next week.
Would it be possible for today to bifurcate this, pull out those line items? I mean, I know you don't want motions on the fly with something that's technical, but I'd be more than happy to give a positive affirmation to the bulk of this and bifurcate this one line item.
Mayor, I so appreciate your thinking through ways to do this. I don't think that would be possible. And the reason is that the way that we do our analysis of the entirety of the regional transportation plan, again, under the federal process, is each project impacts the whole system in terms of the modeling of travel behavior, critically in terms of the air quality impacts. So taking a project out sort of, in a way, invalidates the regional analysis, which is the whole purpose of the regional transportation plan. So we're not, I don't think it would work for our process to be picking and choosing specific projects.
And now you're frankly articulating a point that makes me even more firmly opposed to this plan, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, that was going to be my suggestion, either to table this so we could have some discussion, more examine this from all angles. It's kind of hard to do this on the fly, but if not, to bifurcate the issues. But if you're saying that's not possible, then all the more reason I won't be supporting it today and won't be supporting it next week unless there's some way to satisfy this objection.
Understood. And I mean, Mayor, it's if the mayors want to vote against this motion for the reasons expressed, of course, that's your right to do so. And again, just given the regional perspective and the reasons we've explained, we would hope that this committee would move forward as we've discussed, and we commit to work on these issues over the course of the next several days before the council meeting next week.
And I would just add, I understand this process. I've been part of it for a very long time. I know the professionalism. The public has some skepticism on this project. This has been a deal that's been baked a long time ago. I don't believe that, but I think that at every step in the process, before we have a final record of decision where bodies are moving something along, I get the complexity of working with the federal government in that piece. I certainly do. But there is that, right? Which is largely a reason for at least my final decision today.
Understood.
And I can appreciate that as well. As the only person who has ever voted no at the Unified Economic Opportunity Commission, I can appreciate, I get it. Like I get it. Yeah. Okay. With that, is there an additional comment? Terry, please.
And I know this isn't an environmental process right now, but I do think there is a lot of value to the getting the public comments on it. And so releasing it for public comment, I think is the right thing to do. That will allow the public an opportunity to comment on what's in the plan. And I think that that is a valuable and important part that we all respect as the planning process. So.
Anyone else? Okay, that's the end of the discussion. Thank you. I appreciate it. And trying to find that happy medium with the sound. Sorry, I don't. It sounds a little loud to me, but we do want to make sure that everyone joining us online can hear. With that, we've got a motion and a second on the table. The motion before us is that we recommend that the Wasatch Front Regional Council release the draft phased and financially constrained 2023 through 2050 Regional Transportation Plan and Draft Air Quality Memorandum number 41 for public comment from January 27th, 2023 to February 26th, 2023. That's the motion that we're voting on. At this point, I will ask all in favor to please unmute or also and join us in voting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say no.
No.
Nay.
Get a roll call.
So can we just make sure for the record, Mayor Zoltansky and Mayor Wilson voting no? Is there anybody else that's voting no? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now that we've concluded that vote, we will also point out that there will be an additional level of discussion all week before this goes before the Wasatch Front Regional Council, I would imagine. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. We are excited to highlight a fantastic project happening here in our region, the 3-Gate Trail. Roy's Mayor Dandoy is going to provide an overview on the regionally significant 3-Gate Trail that is planned to run through Weber and Davis counties, connecting the communities of Ogden, Riverdale, Roy, Sunset, and Clearfield with Falcon Hill and Hill Air Force Base. It's exciting. This is a fantastic project, and it's being brought to the Regional Growth Committee for a few reasons. This is a regionally significant project in its own right that will have a huge positive impact on the quality of life for a number of WFRC communities. This is a case study in the power of collaboration and can help us see what we need to do elsewhere in the region to make something this significant come to fruition. There's other places where hopefully we can replicate something like this and make this happen for the residents closer to where we may live. The governor and the Utah Department of Transportation are working through the details of the exciting Utah Trails Initiative, which we've been excited about and spoken really in favor of. This project illustrates the potential of that initiative. I'm going to turn to Mayor Dandoy of Roy.
Thank you, Mayor. In light of time, I'd like to move through this rather quickly. I want to make sure we set the stage, recognizing this is the beginning of the conversation and certainly not the end or the middle. And then if you have other questions, we certainly have some information we can share with you and answer your questions to help you make you understand what we're about to do. So if you'll bear with me, let me get through this if I can. If the discussion really comes down to, thank you, to look at something that's really kind of unique. And I guess maybe what I'd suggest to you, we do not see these kind of opportunities come, but rarely. This may, in my opinion, be once in a lifetime. So the real purpose is just basically to start the discussions about this idea about the 3-Gate Trail. These are the principal players involved in this process, but it's not all inclusive. Certainly it touches every one of these organizations, but I will indicate to you is that I think the opportunities here can actually stretch beyond just these organizations. And so we see this as a good opportunity. And I will indicate to you the Trails Foundation of Northern Utah has now also weighed in and offered at least wanting to help us to find ways to make this thing work. So let me explain a little bit about what we're talking about here. If you can kind of see that red line on these charts, it basically kind of lays out this 6.5 miles. That's an estimated miles, but about 6.5 miles of trail opportunity. And you can kind of see all of the cities in this visual that would be impacted, including Hill Air Force Base and all of the current tendons of that. This is in fact the old Bamberger rail line that actually still, obviously parts of it's still running down the parts of the city and in fact the parts of the counties. And so we're simply talking about this section, and that's our interest. By the way, the Bamberger Trail line that's in there right now is owned by Union Pacific. Now a little background in terms of how we got here. I won't go into a lot of detail. There's a ICBM missile component called the Peacekeeper asset, but in 2005, START Treaty 2, funny names, okay, basically provided direction to pull that particular missile system out of the silos out of F.E. Warren in Wyoming. As a result of that, it kind of set in motion that Hill Air Force Base no longer needed this access to this rail line in support of that weapons system. What kind of the closing chapter happened in 2020, when in fact the decision was made to shut down the Army's locomotive facility. They have a repair capability there, and move that to Anniston. That clearly made that Hill Air Force Base no longer needed trail service going in and out of the base, and certainly shut down the line in terms of the area we're talking about. So that's a little bit of the background that got us there. Now, what changed as part of that process? Well, interesting enough, UDOT has a couple of interesting projects they're working on. They've already started the construction process to make improvements to I-15 at the 5600 road in Roy. So they're going to really do some great things. We're excited about that at the interstate of I-15 at that location. But they're also going to, and got approval on moving towards making some major changes in Davis County associated with the 1800 North interchange. In fact, they're going to build one, which is kind of exciting about that. And with that, MIDA, and certainly we can answer questions, MIDA is going to put a gate into Hill Air Force Base as a result of these changes. Now, this is kind of it's a little bit a difficult visual, but just kind of picture, if you will, if you look at particularly this piece right here, this is the interstate as it runs through there. And UDOT has a plan, and it's kind of interesting plan, to literally move that interstate to the east, right over the top of the current UP line. And with that move, they're going to go ahead and MIDA is going to build another gate. Hence the reason the Roy gate, the new gate, and the Clearfield gate provides us the 3 gates, which is kind of the idea of how we got to the 3-gate trail. So interesting things are happening. We're excited about that. The issue is UDOT has to buy the right of way in order to make that happen. Now, here's the unique application that I think this trail brings to the table. It's a little bit complicated, so I don't want to get too much detail, but here's the point. The fact of the matter is, having this trail allows us to link literally lots of different existing trails. Trails that go to South Weber, trails that go into Uinta, trails that are in Riverdale, trails that are in Ogden. Certainly the trails going down the spine of the Wasatch Front called the Denver Rio Grande Western Rail Trail. All of that, okay, is easily connected by this proposed and planned 3-gate trail. So we're really kind of excited about that. And oh, by the way, Clearfield has what's called the Clearfield Canal Trail that we think we can make connection to that as well. Now, there is a proposal which was really kind of fascinating that Ogden put out in 2013 to try to do another trail link, and that would happen a little bit north. That's a different conversation, but it certainly gives us access on a trail system directly to the Front Runner Station in Roy. And we think that would be a wonderful opportunity for those who simply want to ride the trail, jump on a train, and go anywhere they want up along the Wasatch Front. Now, pushing through this, there is, in fact, the Clearfield Canal Trail. And if you kind of look at that, if we can find the bridge, and I think we have a solution here, if we can find a bridge to get access to that trail, that drives that trail access right into Layton. And the beauty of that would be is, here the people in Layton can literally use that trail in many cases to simply go to work. We'll talk about that here in a second. Okay, like any trail system, you got to be thinking about things to consider. We do not know at this moment where this trail will end. I think that negotiation will work out between Union Pacific and UDOT as they finalize this process of acquisition. But it's going to drop somewhere into the Ogden Rail Trail on the north end. The secret here is also find a way by which we can bridge over that yard and find a way we can get into Ogden, okay? So people in Ogden can literally have access to this trail system. Here's another unique situation. We got 4 bridges. That Union Pacific line actually goes over I-15. So we need to find ways to things to consider of how we're going to provide some level of protection for people who are biking and obviously walking that trail. So we have that situation needs to be looked at. But equally important, because the uniqueness of this trail, if you look up to the top of the right where I put that star, at that location, this proposed trail will go right over the top of what they call the Weber Parkway Trail. the Weber River Parkway Trail. We believe we can drop it right off onto that trail. And now you got access literally to an existing trail system that connects to a number of cities. So we're excited about this option here. Another unique opportunity. If you kind of look where that trail goes, or that rail line goes today, but the trail will go tomorrow, it's right next to the Ogden Airport. So you have some unique opportunities to be able to apply to the Ogden Airport. And equally important, just across I-15, across that pedestrian bridge we have right there, it drops into the future home of the American First Credit Union campus, a rather large complex that's being considered. And the idea from Riverdale is to say, our employees could literally have access to that trail coming and going to work, and they can literally walk into their job from that location. And by the way, one other thing that I would suggest to you is that we see some real opportunities to the plans of what Falcon Hill has planned. Now, I came from California, spent a few years down there, somewhat of a big fan of the old Jack in the Box. Not so sure you know what that is, but certainly if you're in California, you know what that is. And Taylor Woodbury right now is working in Falcon Hills to put one in the Falcon Hills area. So you're going to see a lot of people using that trail, if nothing else, to enjoy the Jack in the Box. Now we have some unique issues that we have to deal with in Roy. One of them is in the expansion process that UDOT is proposing and making to our road, and particularly 5600, this railroad line goes right over the top. So the decision has to be made. Are we going to tunnel under 5600 with this trail or put a bridge over? Those are things that we need to consider. Right now, and this is also a unique opportunity, this rail line and proposed trail actually already goes under I-15. And so with that, I will indicate to you, at least from Falcon Hills perspective, they're already making arrangements to access the trail so that what they call the Roy Innovation Center, where Northrop Grumman has a rather large contingency of workers there, as well as having access into the Falcon Hills at this location. So that's already in the plans when in fact this trail actually is developed and completed. Now I'm almost completed here. Key element would be as it moves a little further south, we need to make sure we find ways by which through MIDA and probably more likely Falcon Hill, how we can now access this. We have a vision that people literally will be able to not drive their cars to work in getting to Hill Air Force Base. And considering the fact is they got close to 28,000 people working there, wouldn't it be nice if we can leave a lot of them so they just have to walk or ride their bike? And we see that as a great opportunity. We just need to finish working that piece. That's part of the process. Now, let me close if I can with just a couple of comments. I've never seen anything like this before. It just doesn't happen like this. This is in fact a rail line that is no longer going to be used. They're going to pull the rails. And the bottom line is we have a chance to basically do something with it. It's not big enough to put a house on it, but it certainly is big enough and long enough that we can make a great trail out of it. That's where we're going to go with it. We're excited about it, but there's a lot of answers we still do not know. And obviously those still things that need to be done. With that, I'll open up to any questions. Maybe we can offer some answers if you have them.
Mayor, thank you so much. Really quickly before questions, and maybe this will be a question, but I know we've got Trustee Holbrook with UTA who's joining us online. We're going to turn to you, Beth. Have you got some comments or a question for the mayor?
Oh, Madam Chair, thank you so much. Yes, I do. And I am so excited to see the mayor present this today. We, up in the north area, we have been looking at several iterations of this project for many years. And I just want to say how amazing Mayor Dandoy has done on this project. And I think bringing all of the connected peoples, cities, communities, everything is coming into play onto this. And we are so excited to support his vision that articulates how people can get access to a lot of these entities, Falcon Hill, Northrop Grumman, Hill Air Force Base, and do it in a way that is transit supported and active transportation supported, multimodal. And I think that that's the key component. And I just wanted to express our support and thanks to Mayor Dandoy and Weber County, MIDA, all of these entities who really just did an amazing job. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you again, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee Holbrook. Appreciate your work and collaboration with this. And I haven't been part of the process. I'm just impressed with it. It's very well done. It looks awesome. We're excited to see this come about. I'm going to see really quickly if Ariana Farber here with MIDA has anything she'd like to share as well, if that's okay.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Mayor. That was a wonderful overview of the project. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of our role in this project, I'm the Deputy Director of MIDA, which is the Military Installation Development Authority. And we have been working on this for about 5 years now. It's been part of my personal portfolio for that entire time. And I'm extremely excited to see it come to this body and to have this level of discussion. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. Thank you so much for giving this project this level of recognition. We started looking at this when we were evaluating and studying the area for demolishing the DGRC, which is the rail yard on Hill Air Force Base. We recognized at that time that the rail line was not utilized by any other user. At that time, we started discussions with Union Pacific, and actually Union Pacific recognized that that wasn't being utilized, but it is now going through the process of being formally abandoned. That means that it is not actually formally abandoned at this time, but it is my understanding that UDOT has closed with their purchase agreement. So that is an incredible landmark milestone that we can look forward to. And now we can engage in the formal abandonment process, which takes between 9 and 15 months. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. My understanding is that UDOT has closed with their purchase agreement on that. The second thing that I wanted to say, and to make this body aware of, is that this corridor is extremely wide, in some places as wide as 100 feet. That means there exists the potential that in conjunction with it being an active transportation network, we could potentially put a people mover on this. And we just want to bring it to this body's attention that if we design it in such a way that it could have that dual use, you could have one side of it be a people mover, one side of it be active transportation, and that would increase our transportation capabilities exponentially. So I'm asking us to please look at that, make that be a consideration and be something that we look at and advocate for. The third thing is that MIDA has been named in a federal earmark for $3 million. MIDA has requested these funds to help with the transitioning of the gate to the trail system. This is extremely exciting. It's one of the first earmarks that's ever been awarded. Not ever, but in a very, very long time. So MIDA is specifically named. We have monies that are set aside specifically for construction for this project, and we're extremely excited to access that and to get the ball rolling with that. And so I'm here to answer any questions. If you have any specific questions about the history of this project, if you'd like to talk offline or anything related to it, please let me know. I'm available for comments or questions. Thank you.
Can I just make a brief comment? This is such a cool project. And you all know that the governor and UDOT have proposed a Utah trail network to put an ongoing source of funding to key regionally significant trails to connect communities. And this is an example, this 3-gate trail, of a trail that takes advantage of a corridor that's there. And as Mayor Dando was noting, connects communities with major employment hubs and the base. And so it's just such an exciting example of what we can do in Utah if we really make a commitment to investing in trails, paved trails for transportation purposes. It's just exciting.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please, Dr. Ewing.
You said the maximum width is 100 feet, and right. that would accommodate both the trail and the people mover. What is the minimum width?
I'm not entirely sure. We have to study that more, but we do recognize, we've had our landscape architect take a look at the area, and we do recognize that with the proper design elements in place, we could potentially put a people mover on it. It hasn't been talked about in very serious discussions conceptually. It's only been kind of talked about as an active transportation trail, but I'd like to bring it as a potential to this body right now, that there is the potential to do that if we design it properly and we start looking at that now.
Thank you. Any additional questions for the mayor or for Ariana? Please.
Yes, thanks. Wow, what an exciting project. And also with the governor's announcement of his commitment to a border-to-border trail network, this suits the timing, everything's coming together perfectly. One observation, if I could share my experience in Sandy, is on paved trails. This is goes through basically horse country, or what's left of it in northern Utah. And if paved trails are great, and I love them, they're very convenient. With that much space, please consider in the design chance for people who want a natural trail for health benefits and also for equestrian use, because horses and asphalt are not a good combination. But there's a rail trail right now that goes through Farmington, gosh, all the way up to far west. It's so popular with absolutely everyone. It's a multi-use trail, and it is, you know, it's on a raised berm, the old trail bed or the railroad bed, but it is so nice because it's a hard surface, but it's not concrete asphalt. So there's a lot of innovative materials, and bikers, even road bikers, can ride on it. That tire cyclists, dog walkers, people that want a natural experience. 100-foot corridor. There's going to be a lot of wildlife there. There's going to be a lot of native plants. And so what a great opportunity to experience that full corridor of nature. So I want to thank you so much for your work, Mayor. Ariana, thank you so much for your work. This is a very exciting project. And I just want to put out before you consider the future, please make an allowance for an adjacent trail or a shoulder area that has a natural surface. People are looking for that now.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you very much, Mayor.
I agree. That was a great suggestion. Any other questions, comments? Did you have anything? Okay. Thank you very much. And again, thank you, Mayor Dandoy, and all of the cities that are part of this, and to UDOT and UTA and MIDA and everyone working together to make this happen. What an exciting opportunity. You know, the wheels in my head turn as I think about the south part of Salt Lake County. I'm like, could we connect Sandy and Draper and the River to Range Trail through the point and connect it to Bluffdale, take it through Harriman, Riverton area, connect to South Jordan? Could we get to Butterfield Canyon? What could this look like in our area? You know, is this the kind of thing that we could replicate? I'd love to, in our own way, you know, keep working on that. And I know there's a lot of work being done, but the possibilities are exciting.
Madam Chair, I would just share that we are putting quite a bit of funding into trying to get us to exactly that in Salt Lake County. And it might be worth a short presentation at a later date of how we're taking the vision of this body and the work that's being done and trying to move up some timelines. And we've been able to prioritize our fourth quarter revenue primarily recently to trails, including the work that we're doing in Yellow Fork Canyon and Butterfield, that area, which is going to be quite exciting, and there'll be multi-use, speaking of equestrian use. But we've seen a lot of opportunity to advance some of our connecting areas that typically have not had a lot of active transportation, canal trails, et cetera. So it's exciting.
It is exciting. I would love to make note about being able to put that on a future agenda, a presentation about that if possible. That would be awesome.
Salt Lake City just passed their parks bond. So that includes a lot of trail funding. So great things are happening all around.
Good. This is exciting. The Three Gate Trail is the kind of bike route that fulfills the Wasatch Choice strategy of providing real transportation choices, additional transportation choices. And it's the kind of route that most of us would use and my grandkids will use. And maybe it'll help me move my son-in-law back to Utah. He likes to bike. They live in a beautiful area, but we want them back. So please, Terry.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody that UDOT did present to our budget committee yesterday with a request for $45 million ongoing to do a statewide regional trail network. And I think if that funding comes through, we look forward to working with all the partners and trying to figure out how we do connections, between the communities, all of the local systems that the locals have stepped up to build and maintain. We think there's a role for the state to step up and take care of that more regional system. And so we look forward to being able to connect those things together.
Love that. Thank you for mentioning that. And it's probably worth mentioning that I can imagine that there will probably be a more formal letter of support that comes out of this body or from the Regional Growth Committee or from the Wasatch Front Regional Council in support of the funding for the trails networks.
Well,
Am
now
I
that
over speaking?
No, not at all. I mean, we take our direction from you. So now that you mentioned that, there's actually a letter that has been assembled by a whole variety of folks around the state to express support for this Utah Trail Network. Mike I see him dropping the sign-on letter into the chat right now, and we're planning to email that letter out to all of you later today. And this is something that's happening all around the state. So anybody that wants to express support for this idea of having a Utah Trail Network for our quality of life can sign on as an individual or on behalf of your community. So that'll be coming out by email later today.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks. All right. Let's move ahead really quick. Item 5, we've got station area planning. We've already had the opportunity to certify the first station area plan with Farmington City, and we're excited to have the first one from Salt Lake City, our second station area plan here. You'll recall HB 462 was adopted earlier this year to help address Utah's challenges with housing availability and affordability. And one key element of the bill is the requirement for cities with transit stations to develop transit station area plans. This was an effort to encourage more growth to happen in the most appropriate places. And it's consistent with our Wasatch Choice Vision. The cities are required to address shared goals, including housing, but cities get to decide how to do it and maintain our local control over land use. Wasatch Front Regional Council is given the responsibility by HB 462 to provide technical assistance to the cities to certify that station area plans satisfy the statutory requirements. And today we're going to turn it to Megan Townsend to introduce the Salt Lake City Ballpark Area Station as the second station area plan for certification.
Thank you so much, Mayor. The purpose of this presentation today is to prepare you to take action on the ballpark track station area plan. So I will really briefly remind everyone of the components, the goals of station area planning, tell you where we're at with station area plans. Our organization has a big role, and then we'll look at the ballpark station area plan and hear from Salt Lake City about that plan. I'm Megan Townsend, Community and Economic Development Director, Wasatch Front Regional Council. I don't think I said that. Okay, as a reminder, HB 462 gave cities this obligation, this opportunity to produce station area plans around our fixed guideway, rail, and bus rapid transit systems. The goals, the objectives of that station area planning piece of legislation is to increase the availability and affordability of housing, to promote sustainable environmental conditions, to enhance access to opportunities, and increase transportation choices and connections. In order to do that, there are 5 key components that are required for station area plans. That is the vision, a map, and that covers the station area, which is a half-mile radius around a fixed rail station, and around bus rapid transit, it's a quarter-mile radius. A 5-year implementation plan, a statement describing how those objectives are met, and there's several stakeholders required to be involved along with general public outreach. In order to help cities do this, the MPOs, Mountain Land Association of Governments, and WFRC are administering technical assistance in partnership with UTA. And we have $5 million to spend over 2 years. A couple of our communities are ready to go because we've been doing some of this work for a while with our cities through our transportation and land use connection program, for example. And that's where Ballpark is. So here's the progress so far. Most stations, most of our 88 stations are somewhere in this, they either haven't quite started, but they're thinking about it, or they have previous planning, or they're working on a plan now. And a few stations have trickled over into the other side of this, which is that they've adopted station area plans. Ballpark, Salt Lake City has submitted Ballpark to us to be certified, and we certified one plan last meeting at the end of the year. Farmington's front runner. So we'll look at that plan today. We'll continue to update this progress, and you can always get our progress report on the website. Okay, so let's look at Ballpark. This is a really fantastic plan. Most of it was completed before we even began talking about station area planning as a legislative item. And because of really amazing professionals, excellent planners, we still meet all of the required components of station area planning. And so it's just a really solid plan, and you know, was initiated just out of the city wanting to do great things for this neighborhood. I'm going to go through a few key components here. There's a big move section of this plan. Don't worry about reading that. I just want to show you some of the beautiful imagery of this plan. This has some key actions that will be taken in the neighborhood. Future land use map, of course. This has sub-area place types and key opportunities. There is the map of future connections to the transit station, as well as a detailed implementation plan and lots of other good stuff. The station area plan, along with the submission form from the city and the staff checklist, it's all within your packet. So you can take a deeper look at the ballpark station area plan. This is a really diverse community. This team took a lot of extra care to make sure they were engaging a wide variety of stakeholders here. I want to thank the city for the opportunity to work with you all on this plan. When we were working on this, I was a ballpark resident. And so this has a special place in my heart for sure. And I always learn a lot working with the planners at Salt Lake City. I am going to turn it to Blake Thomas, Director of Community and Neighborhoods for Salt Lake City. Take it away, Blake.
Can I just note, as we have really, thanks, Megan. We really appreciate Blake and Nick both being here. I know that Mayor Mendenhall is actually out of town today. She's a member of this committee. And I do just want to note, Blake, anticipating what you're going to talk about here, even though this is referred to as the ballpark plan, as noted when Meg put the map up, and maybe Meg, you can actually back up to that map. It is a large area, and it is named by ballpark, but the ballpark is actually one small portion of this much larger neighborhood in the Salt Lake City area, and the plan addresses the entirety of the neighborhood. With that comment, Blake.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us again. Blake Thomas with Salt Lake City. The plan talks about growth in transportation and connectivity and pedestrian and biking environments, as well as parks and green space and community facilities and safety and security. And what I want to do is, I don't want to take up a lot of time, but I do want to announce the Ballpark Next initiative, which is live and online. It's a 60-day visioning competition for the future of the 13.5 acres that are poised for redevelopment in the neighborhood, and turn it over to Nick, the city's planning director, to talk a little bit about exactly what Andrew pointed out about the future of this plan as it relates to the ballpark. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm Nick Norris, planning director for Salt Lake City, and addressing the actual ballpark, the site. And as Blake said, the city's already working on a process for coming up with ideas to reimagine that site. It does not require any sort of change to the plan. Our goal is for that location to continue to be a major draw in our city and our region for whatever that future use may be. We don't know, right? We don't want to put parameters on what it might be. We want to hear from particularly our residents who live and work and own property in that specific area, because we think that they are going to come up with some tremendous ideas, and then we'll work on trying to figure out how we can implement those ideas. But the premise of the plan of growing around our infrastructure and our amenities is not impacted or changed by that. And I wanted to highlight a couple of the things that Salt Lake City is doing that this becomes part of. For many of you, you're probably familiar with the amount of residential growth that's happening in Salt Lake County. And since we've actually been doing station area planning in Salt Lake for 20 years. And so this is nothing new for us, but some of the highlights of our accomplishments that this plan will further is that since 2010, more than 40% of all the housing units constructed in Salt Lake County are in Salt Lake City. Part of that is because of our commitment to grow around our existing infrastructure and in places that can support that growth and provide the amenities that people need to create livable communities. in the last 2 years, we have entitled more than 11,000 housing units. 90% of those are within a half mile of a transit station. So we're not only are we preaching the importance of growth around transit and linking transportation and land use, is that we are putting it into action and experiencing it and taking continually taking steps to improve that. And we envision that the ballpark plan will do that as well. We are already in the process of starting the implementation. This plan was adopted in October of 2022. We'll be releasing our first round of zoning changes to support transit in the next 30 days. It's one of only 2 stations actually within our city that doesn't have a station area plan or isn't an institutional use on the campus of the University of Utah or at the Salt Lake International Airport. And so hopefully this won't be the first time in the next several months where you see us here, because we have a lot of plans in place already, and we'll be sending them as quickly and as soon as we can. So I'm happy to entertain any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Reed Ewing online has a question. Meg, would you like to continue? Do you have more to present before we take questions?
Let me get through these last couple slides just to make sure everyone knows what you have at your fingertips to look at this, and then we can go to questions if that's all right, Chair. Thank you. So I just want to go over the items in your packet. According to our policy that we adopted together in May, Wasatch Front Regional Council policy for how we'll certify station area plans, you've got all of those things we promised to give you in your packet. So that includes the plan, the form that the city used to submit the plan, a resolution that upon council certifying the plan would be signed and granted to the city as their evidence of having been certified by the Wasatch Front Regional Council, and a staff checklist where we've gone through and looked for everything that's required. And I'll just say that staff is making a positive recommendation for certification. So we are recommending that the Regional Growth Committee recommend to the council to certify the plan. Okay, we can go to questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to turn online to Reed Ewing. Dr. Ewing, are you there? You had a question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. We've become increasingly housing focused at the Metropolitan Research Center and WFRC and UTA and others have supported our research, and we've been very surprised. We started with a study of housing and ridership and traffic volumes along 400 South. And actually the TRAX ridership has gone down in the last couple of years. I mean, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. The ridership has gone down and traffic has increased on 400 South, despite all of those mid-rise apartment buildings, which, you would think would be transit oriented, given their proximity. And then you may have seen in the newspaper last weekend, I guess it was last Sunday, our evaluation of the S line, in the fact that I don't know if this was in the article, but in the report, very little of the housing is affordable of the original projects, residential projects. And then we did one more study of 85 TODs around the country that are next to transit stations, and only 20% of the housing is affordable. So my question to you is, what are we going to do in this plan? And the plan should include more than just land uses, but should address the issue of affordability to ensure that this, the ballpark area doesn't become gentrified in the same sense that most of 400 South is, and most of the Sugar House is, and so on. That's got to be a problem, because it makes transit much less effective if you have luxury apartments with rents like $2,000 per month and ample parking, you're not taking advantage of the infrastructure that is the transit itself.
Nick?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that question. So I think it's important to note that this plan, and not only the ballpark plan, but other housing plans in the city address affordable housing needs. And the city has demonstrated continually over the years the commitment to provide financial incentives to create more affordable and accessible housing in the city. Zoning by itself is never going to do that, but it will create barriers to it. There has to be, given our current structure of government, not just locally, but at a state level, there has to be other tools in order to accomplish that. And the primary tool for the city is through our budget. And I don't know the exact dollar amounts, but we're putting, I think, $20+ million in the current budget year into affordable housing. We are also working on what we're calling affordable housing incentives that grant density bonuses and additional development right for any entity that is providing affordable housing within their development. The purpose of that is not only to make federal and state dollars more effective in either producing more units or producing a lower level of affordability, but also to make city dollars go further so that we can accomplish that. Our zoning changes that we are considering will incorporate those affordable housing incentives in order to help us address that issue.
Could you just comment, point well taken, but on the lack of, except for Liberty Village in Sugar House and Liberty Boulevard along 400 South, there aren't affordable units. Could you, so that's the reality. Could you indicate in what way that will be avoided for the ballpark neighborhood?
Well, sure. Just to correct you, there are numerous affordable housing projects along 400 South that the city has participated in, including the two that are located on 400 South and between 300 and 400 East, two significantly sized buildings, most of which I think there's 400 total units, with more than 200 of those are affordable, some as low as I believe 30% AMI. And in addition, on the adjacent streets, 300 South, 500 South, there are also affordable housing developments that have either been approved or constructed or that are in existence. So I think it's easy to point to data from several years ago, but that data is already outdated, right? And we've been doing a lot of that investment. A lot of our affordable housing is also going in along the North Temple track stations. It's always a challenge to build affordable housing in areas where land values are very, very high. In our downtown area, land values are pushing $10 million an acre. And so that makes it very challenging to get affordable housing, knowing that when you have a limited amount of public dollars that can go into that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Great questions and great answers. I know we've got a comment by Trustee Christensen as well.
A couple thoughts I would add to this, and I experienced this a lot when I was on the city council, but some look at tracks as primarily local use, and the reality is tracks is a lot tied to commuter use. And while there is some movement clearly by local residents, but if you look at the local frequent transit network, bus network in Salt Lake City, that ridership is actually going up pretty substantially, and the city has invested pretty heavily in that. And the bus use tends to reflect more local use. And that's also reflected in our weekend numbers for Saturday and Sunday, which is also reflective of when people accessing services. But the other part of, I would say, in pointing to this plan in particular, we've appreciated the partnership we've had here with all the parties involved. And in the 5 years or so I worked at the county, drove through this neighborhood quite a bit because my youngest was going to a nearby high school. And it's been interesting to watch how this neighborhood is transitioning. And I think will be a strong neighborhood for the community, and certainly taking advantage of the transit that's there. So very supportive of the plan.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
I
please.
just want to compliment the team from Salt Lake City, the mayor and others. This is really amazing, and a lot of work and effort's gone into this. And I know what an exciting meeting. We talked about the gondola and the ballpark leaving and what's being planned instead. So look how relevant we are. But
yes, if anybody ever thinks Regional Growth Committee is boring,
no,
just stick
my
around.
Goodness,
Yeah.
just
hang in there with us. We get exciting sometimes.
Yes, it gets very exciting. But great job, team. I think it's really going to be a benefit to not just Salt Lake City, but the region. So from the county perspective, we're excited as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
May I echo congratulations. I learned a new term today. I think I'm going to steal it for Sandy, a visioning competition. That is so cool. And what a great way to promote engagement. You know, the best ideas are from the people who are closest to the ground. And I love that it's not staff directed. You know, the future is going to be set by the community, and the need for affordability next to transit. Yes, 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 more of it. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Meg, did you have anything else?
All that I have, Madam Chair, is the suggested motion on the table.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you so much to Salt Lake City for being here and the great work that's gone into this for quite some time. It's an outstanding plan. I need to ask if there is a motion to recommend to the full Wasatch Front Regional Council the certification of the station area plan for Salt Lake City's ballpark station.
Okay, fine. I'm going to do it. So nervous. I make a motion to recommend the Salt Lake City Ballpark Station area plan to Wasatch Front Regional Council for certification.
Thank you, Mayor.
Second. Mayor
Second,
Dandoy.
Mayor Dandoy. Thank you. Any additional discussion? Just accolades and appreciation for the great work that's gone into this. Thank you. Wholeheartedly recommend this. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? That will be recommended to go forward. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time and your work on this. All right, we are out of time. So item 6, I'm going to ask for a motion to table. We do need to do our Open Public Meetings Act video review. Many of us receive that in a variety of settings, but it's something we always do here. I'm going to ask, it's not too late for us to do it at the next meeting. We can table that till our March 16th meeting. If I could get a motion to do that, that is still puts us within the legal parameters. Can I get a motion to do that?
Can we watch it on our own? No, it needs to be in the meeting.
Done here.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah,
okay.
It does. And since we have Council of Government starting here right in any second.
Could we ask for some form of discussion? If I don't know the requirements, but I've been in 3, if not 4 sessions now. And I wonder if there isn't a way where we can verify and still qualify for
as doing it.
For those of us who
have done it a lot. Yes.
Busy.
You can, because maybe it's only special districts, but you can take the state auditor's test, get the certificate. And I've been able to provide that to the institution, demonstrating that I have met the requirement. Is
that a lifetime certificate?
No. It's an annual opportunity to enlighten myself, but it's not a very painful thing, and it goes relatively quick.
For our processes at WFRC, it's preferred that we have it on our agenda and that it is played during a meeting. And those that have not had the opportunity to see it are welcome to stay. So that's what we will do in March, but it has to be on the agenda. So I appreciate that, and I wish I could.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. So I need to ask for a motion to table item 6 until our March 16th, 2023 meeting.
Madam Chair, I move that we table item 6 to our March meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Appreciate that. We will have that playing next time. Our next meeting, March 16th, 2023. And with that, can I ask for a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to ask for a second. Some organizations do, some don't. I always do. All right. Thank you. With that, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are adjourned. And thank you all for your good work and everything happening and great discussion. Thank you.